Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TRE podcast. I'm your host, Matt Celesio. Today we are at Uplift Therapy for Men with an amazing guest, John Sendim. How you doing, John?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm living the dream, man. And honestly, really excited to dive into this episode today because this is the first episode that we're doing on men's mental health. And I think it comes at a time when we all need, men don't have that voice, that extra, listening ear to bring into the conversation. So I'm really excited that you're here.
Excited to be here and look forward to this conversation.
Amazing. Now, John, every episode I do, I like to ask my guests, do they have an intention for this episode? So for any guest or any listener right now, what do you hope they get from this episode?
I hope they get a sense that they can reach out for help if that's what they're looking for. And if it's to myself, great. If not, I'm happy to provide resources, referrals to whatever it is that they might need.
I love that. And again, just reaching out, that's like 90% of the battle, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, for men, around reaching out and all these other things that come along with therapy and I guess looking introspectively, there's a lot of stigmas around it. Yeah. There's a lot of intimidation. There's maybe some uncertainty. So can you just break down the landscape? Like, what are you seeing in terms of stigmas that we need to be aware of as guys in this industry?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When I talk to guys in my practice, I ask them, like, what made you reach out? Like, what is that you're looking for? And some of them will say, like, yeah, I've been thinking about therapy for over a year.
Wow. I'm
like, damn, okay. What's getting in the way of that? They're like, oh, I can't find the right therapist. Maybe timing is not right. So there's all these barriers to entry. But then if you think of the stigma, men don't really reach out for help, right? It's like, oh, I have a problem. I'm going to deal with it myself. I'm just going to figure it out. Kind of like that male ego, maybe. And then depending on your cultural background, too, that can sometimes get in the way you're brought up. You deal with your problems yourself, or you reach out to your friends, family. You don't go to a professional. You don't seek a therapist. So that becomes a challenge for people seeking help. And then there's maybe portrayals of therapists in the media as well. Certain movies, TV shows, where you go to your therapist and you're talking about your problems. And people just don't want to do that, right? Especially with men. Like, men's like, okay, I'm dealing with this problem. I need a solution. I want to tackle it. Let's get through it. We just don't want to sit down and talk about our feelings and all that kind of stuff, too.
Yeah, and that's the other point, right? Like, people, especially men, are very dismissive to the things that they're going through. Like, they don't even, like, let's say they know they want to reach out, but then they just distract themselves with, like, for us, it could be work, it could be grinding, it could be goals, it could be all these other things.
Social media, like, so many distractions can get in the way of reaching out.
And that's just, like, it's like a battle of, like, subconscious versus conscious. It's like, don't just let your brain run on autopilot for all these negative things, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever, before you even became a therapist, like, do you have any, I guess, barrier to when you started working through maybe even your internal journey? How'd you overcome that? What did that look like?
Yeah, so...
Deep question, eh?
Deep question, yeah. I was trying to think, where do I go from there? Again, I didn't really know much about the therapy landscape, to be honest. I knew I wanted to become a therapist. That was from, like, reading Freud, Jung, those kind of people. But I had no idea what it entails, what it would look like behind the scenes. And then kind of going to university, struggling a little bit in school, I had to see a therapist on campus. And I was actually reading, like, the consent form. They can't, like, shove pills down your face, all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, okay, make sure I'm informed of, like, I know what's going on. And then I was a psychiatrist that I actually saw, so it wasn't really like a counseling session. But in that session, I kind of felt like, yeah, this is not a person I want to talk to. Just the vibe felt off. And what I learned being in school, the most important thing for, like, a therapy session is the therapeutic relationship. So all the credentials, all the modalities and everything, they're great, they're needed, but it's how you fit with the therapist. Do you have that connection? Do you want to come to therapy? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to therapy, I don't know if I want to see this person or talk to them. And I actually see that with a lot of clients. Like, they'll book a session, they'll have the session and be like, I don't know what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm like, that's fine. That's not you don't have to know anything. I'll, like, get things out of you. And after the session, like, wow, I didn't know we were going to go there today. I'm like, yeah, see, that's the power of therapy, right? You can actually explore things that are going on inside. And then when I was looking for a therapist myself, I did find one, and I was looking specific for men. And same thing, like I said, it took, I think, me a year to actually get that support.
Wow.
Because, again, like, we had the whole lockdown and everything, so that put a pause on things. And I wanted it in person as well, not online. And I think they were just offering online. But I did go through the session, had that first session, and I felt like worse off than when I came in.
You felt worse off?
Worse off.
Wow. How come?
So I was getting into some stuff, like some deep stuff around, like, my dad, potentially becoming a father, like those kind of areas. And in the middle of the session, the therapist was like looking away and then had to like stop the session. He's like, can you hold on a second? I'm just like, okay. I'm getting into some stuff, but sure. Comes back, and then again, kind of like looking away. To me, it looked like it was very dismissive. And I never went back. I'm just like, nope, I'm not going. And when I was looking for a therapist, the things I was looking for were certain criteria, like having a man a bit older, certain modalities that they were practicing, and the therapeutic relationship wasn't there. So now trying to find a therapist again is quite difficult. So I'm trying to become the therapist that I would want.
Okay. Well, that's another good talking point, is the fact that even if somebody had tried therapy before and they had an experience like that, they're turned off forever. Right?
Most likely, yeah.
So it's just a matter of reaching out again, trying to find. It's like going on dates, right? You don't just go on one date and say,
exactly, yeah,
women aren't for me. You don't say that, right?
No, absolutely. That's why I recommend people like reach out to maybe at least 3 therapists.
Yeah.
Maybe one that you're really looking for, maybe something completely different, and just trying to compare and contrast. Because again, not all therapists are going to be the right match, right? So ask questions, do your homework, read their bios, and then reach out again and have that conversation. And it's usually recommended to have at least like 1 to 2 sessions just to feel it out. Because I had one client who reached out to me in the beginning. I like emailed them back saying like, hey, you can book here. Didn't hear anything back. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And then they reached out again. I'm like, okay, they're coming back. Because I'm like, this name's familiar. So I went back to my notes. I saw, okay, they did reach out. And we had, I think, about 2 or 3 sessions, but they were apprehensive. So I'm like, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, yeah, I'm not sure if therapy's for me or if I'm looking for this or not. So I'm like, okay, what can I do to make things better? Like, oh, no, it's just a matter of timing. I'm like, okay, cool. So give them that space, explore. And then second session, same thing, still apprehensive. Third session, canceled. I was just like,
wow.
I guess I saw this coming.
Yeah, from the prior behavior.
Prior behavior, exactly.
Well,
and again, I wasn't the right fit for them, so.
Maybe that's all it is, yeah.
That's all it is, yeah.
Well, even listening to what you said earlier about how they would show up to a session and they go, I don't know what I want to talk about. Right. And you slowly pick things out of them. Yep. I think one of the best things, and again, like I'd love your opinion on this, is just coming to a therapy session or going to support with an open mind. Because if you're going to a therapy and you're feeling closed off, as all guys usually are, like you're not going to get anything out of that, right?
Absolutely.
Like you have to kind of surrender to the conversation, right?
Yeah, I think that's a key point that you mentioned, the surrender part. Mm-hmm. It's hard to surrender and be vulnerable in a space that you're not familiar or you're new to, right? So a lot of the guys I see here, they're probably new to therapy. This is their first time. So there's big expectations or something to uphold, that they want to get the support that they need with whatever they're struggling with. That's why they're here. Other people are, like I mentioned, like maybe they've saw therapy in the past and it didn't work out. And now they're trying it again to see that hopefully it's going to be different. Get a new perspective, maybe a new therapist. Maybe that's going to help them work through what it is that they're going through. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what, John, let's transition the conversation now, because we're in the works of building our own program for the Revive Academy, right?
Yep.
And we actually submitted a Google form to a bunch of men within our community. And we said, hey, what are some of the biggest things you struggle around mental health and in terms of getting resources? What do you want to hear? And 81% of the guys actually voted confidence was a major issue for them. So have you seen any patterns in the way that men come to you in terms of, are they lacking confidence? Are they secure in themselves? Is their ego just taking over and it's kind of a distraction? What's your take on that?
Yeah, again, I can speak from my own personal experience too, if that's helpful. But yeah, the funny thing that I notice here is I see a lot of men that are competent, capable, but they're lacking that self-confidence area. They're not believing in themselves. So that's why they're here, and we kind of work through that, right? So we see like, okay, what's getting in the way? What is it that you want at the end of the day, right? Maybe they want a better relationship, better whatever it is. Yeah, they're lacking in being able to communicate those things, right? So they're not showing up as their authentic self, the best version of themselves. There's something getting in the way of it. And sometimes there could be underlying things to that. It could be the anxiety, right? So if someone's struggling with social anxiety, and let's say they're an entrepreneur, maybe it's going to be hard to do networking events, right? So they don't have that confidence that like, oh, I can just go up, talk to someone and build that connection. Because the anxiety is consuming them, so it prevents them from reaching out, making that connection to maybe scale their business, let's say. And I could share, I was like that in the past, and maybe not on the networking side of things, but like just looking for a job, right? I remember trying to think of what time frame it was. It was maybe like in high school times or something. And I was applying for a job at Gap Kids at Yorkdale.
Wow.
And I had my resume in hand, and I was sitting on the couch, and the store is like right in front of me.
So you're not in Gap yet?
I'm not in Gap yet. I'm just outside.
Okay.
And it felt like I was there for like an hour, just mustering up the courage, the confidence to go in and apply. But I'm just there sitting like, do I do it? Do I not? And then I'm like having to like talk to myself through this whole process. And then I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to go right up and do it. So part of the process is self-awareness, right? Like understanding, okay, what's really going on inside of me that's getting in the way of this? Is there fear, anxiety, something else, maybe a past trauma, maybe parent upbringing that's getting in the way of you initially going after what you want? So I see that a lot. Like, again, people have good education, good degrees, good work, jobs, all that stuff, but they're still like lacking within themselves.
True.
Yeah.
True. I can weigh into that last point you said, especially when somebody is, they say competent, they're taking action, they have this really big persona.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I've done that my entire life in terms of outsourcing my confidence or outsourcing my self-concept to, let's say, I'm making money, I'm working hard, I'm doing all these great things. But meanwhile, deep down, it's like you don't even have the root of confidence, which is what actually is going to move the needle. It's all just smoke screens around your confidence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that leads into the imposter syndrome, right? It's like, oh, I'm behaving this way, I'm being this person, but I don't believe in it, right? And then the funny thing I heard about imposter syndrome is if you go your life thinking that way, you've done a lot of fooling around other people, right? How did you fool people thinking that you're this person? Right? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? To like fool people, to like trick them, to do all these things, when you're actually capable and competent in those areas. You can do the work, you just got to believe in yourself a bit more. And again, that could stem from childhood. Maybe you had a teacher who said something to you, didn't believe in you. And you can go in one of two directions. You're either going to use that as fuel, right, to move you forward, or you're going to use that and be like, yeah, maybe they're right, and maybe push you back. Right? So there's like that concept of like the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset.
Get into that. What does that mean?
So in fixed mindset, you're kind of, as it says, you're fixed, right? Like there's no area for growth. You're not going to move forward. You're just going to look at criticisms all the time. Whereas the growth mindset, you take any opportunity and you grow from it. You learn from it. So if there's a challenge in your way, you don't look at like, oh, I can't overcome this. You're like, no, I can overcome this. Maybe I don't have the right tools or strategies or people in place, but I can find that. So you're more eager to learn as opposed to the other person is like, nope, I'm going to stay this way. I'm not going to do anything. And that's where people get kind of stuck in that area.
And then that's it. They just continue to spiral downwards.
Yeah.
So how would, let's say somebody listening right now, they say, maybe I am in a fixed mindset. I can see some of my behaviors staying rooted in those limiting beliefs, those self-sabotaging behaviors. Like what's my first step to at least navigating that?
I think the first step is being aware of that.
Aware.
That you're noticing those patterns, your way of thinking, maybe certain behavior patterns, and just admitting to yourself like, yeah, hey, I'm kind of struggling in this area. Maybe this is a time to reach out, or maybe I got to watch a video or read a book or something to get that next step to move the needle forward in that regard.
Yeah, I like that. Honestly, even for me personally, I think one of the best things I do is just thinking about it, like taking the time, no distractions, no music, no phone, and just understand that introspection.
Yeah.
And it helps you understand like, oh, this is why I'm like this. Here's why I'm like this. Here's the things in my life that I'm blocking. You'd be surprised how much clarity you get from just letting your mind think a little bit.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
We have too many distractions nowadays, so it's hard to set the time aside to think. And a lot of things I do recommend in my sessions to clients is journaling.
Yeah.
Right? Just get a piece of paper and write all the thoughts that are coming out onto paper. Right? We have so much that's going on in our lives that we need an outlet, and the paper is a good outlet for that. Just write it all out. Even if you're repeating the same word, if you're doodling, you're drawing, you're making mind maps, whatever it is that you need to do, utilize that. It's a powerful strategy.
Get it out of the brain onto the page.
Exactly.
Like literally, it's like clearing energy almost in a sense. Yeah.
And there's actually an Instagram post that showcased that. When you write, your mind is emptied. Right? So if you think of your mind, right, there's all this noise, all this stuff in there, maybe some knots, and through writing it, you're able to untangle it, lessen the mind, and you can have more room in there to look at what's on the paper.
Yeah, you get a bird's eye view now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what's going on in there. I never actually paid attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so I even think like a lot of that overthinking and the thoughts that come in, that can really hit home for a lot of guys in terms of fear and anxiety and stress. And again, I've struggled with that personally too. But I think in our day and age, especially, there's a lot of pressure on men to be put in this position of authority, to be a protector, to be unshakable, like regardless. Like you can't be shaken.
Yeah.
So where do you feel like this conversation is lacking for men in terms of that stress, the anxiety, and that constant need to be the guy, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's portrayed by the media. A lot of the content that I watch, unfortunately, talks about like that stuff. Where there's one guy who mentioned you have to be 6 feet tall, earn six figures, have 6-inch package,
Yeah.
be out of a relationship for 6 months. All these different things, and so you see all these expectations placed on men. Right? You got to be the provider, so you got to make good enough money to provide for yourself, for your family, if you have a family. You got to have good education to get those kind of roles, let's say. So our whole life is like, okay, we have to do these things, but then there's not supports in place. So a lot more men are not seeking university or college education. They're either dropping out, maybe they're going to the trades, which is, again, it's much needed. So that's definitely an area to focus on. But they're just kind of like stuck in like that survival mode. It's like, oh, there's nothing outlook out for me here. So I'm just going to kind of stay small, play in my field, stay at home, and that's it. Use the devices, social media, whatever, to escape, to numb the pain, as opposed to like go after what is that you want, accept those goals. Again, going back to journaling, if you outline your goals, your vision, all that stuff, it motivates you. It's like, okay, this is what I want. How do I get there now? Right? I want to make $1 million. Great. How do I make $1 million? Let's work backwards now.
I think even what you're saying there, I feel like the underlying root there is like a powerful self-concept in a sense, right? Because you won't take actions if you don't believe that you are deserving or you're worthy of it.
Exactly, yep.
And a lot of guys, I feel, and again, back to the smoke screen, they don't have a powerful self-concept.
Yeah.
And they think that, making 6 figures, having a 6-inch package, doing all these things that make you the man that you should be.
Yep.
That's outsourcing, again, your sense of power, your self-concept. So what's your take on building a self-concept for a man? Like, what does that look like? Do you even work with clients like that in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It starts with the inner journey, right? Like what's going on inside that you need to explore. Again, going back to perhaps childhood traumas or experiences. A lot of the clients that I work with had traumatic upbringings. They've experienced something very traumatic in their childhood that's now impacting them in the day-to-day. That's leading them into the drugs, the alcohol, the porn, like all these different areas. But they don't really look at that. Maybe they don't. There's a blockage there that they're not ready to confront just yet. So we have to kind of pull it back and understand, okay, why are you doing these certain behaviors, right? What's leading to this outcome? Oh, something happened in childhood that you haven't addressed. And again, it can be painful to go back to those moments, to those memories. But you have to be delicate and support the client, knowing that this is a safe space where you can share, you can be vulnerable, that there's not going to be any harm done to you here, right? This is the place where you can touch that inner child, let's say. Go deep in there, provide the support, the reparenting, what is it that you need to then be able to make those changes in the present day context as well.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Again, it was a safe space, be vulnerable. Yep. I think that's super important. Yep. Now, I have a lot of friends, especially in the entrepreneur space, that if I can hear them listening right now, they're saying that's like, it's not masculine, it's not authoritative, it's not action taking. Like I can never ever want to be vulnerable or express my emotions. So again, that's another stigma that needs to be addressed, because if you're not going to step into that energy, you will never resolve that problem.
Exactly.
Those same patterns, the same behaviors, those same belief systems are going to continue to perpetuate. So how do you even, let's say you get a really alpha male that comes in, he goes, I can't do this. How are you going to say, hey man, like you need to just open up? Like what's the first step to us letting our guard down a little bit?
Well, the first step is admitting, like, why can't you open up? Why do you have that defense mechanism in the way, right? So I actually can share this too. Like I have a client who tried being vulnerable with their partner, showcasing their vulnerability, their emotions, and the partner laughs in their face. I hear that time and time again. People try to step up, own up, whatever, and it kind of backfires.
Really?
So the kind of message we get as men is like, it's not safe to do so. Right? And that might be true, but it's with the person. Is the person that you're sharing with a good person to be able to kind of go in that area, right? As a therapist, the therapist holds the space for you in the room. And we try to model or give you the tools and strategies to be able to work on that with other people as well. You're not going to go up to everyone and spill your deepest, darkest secrets, right? You want to kind of go to people that you can trust. Maybe it might be a sibling, a parent, hopefully, or a good friend. And then you can share like, hey, this is what I'm kind of going through. And then if they're a good person, decent enough, they can hold that space for you and be like, yeah, thank you for sharing. I've been kind of struggling myself. And then that's where you can make that bond much more tighter, I would say.
I was just gonna say on your last point there, because again, I believe you shouldn't be opening it up to everybody.
Not everyone, no.
Because people they can laugh in your face.
Yeah.
I think it's
And they can
tough.
use it against you too.
They can use it against you if they're a really bad person. You need some new friends, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But that last point you said, where you actually open up to someone who you feel can actually hold that space, and then they open up back and say, "Yo, man, I'm going through the same thing." Right now, it just opens up this whole treasure chest. You guys just going back and forth, like, "Oh, I didn't know I was the only one."
Yeah,
Which is the whole thing. Like, again, the title of this episode is literally "Stop Suffering in Silence Alone."
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then that's the other thing. Guys always think they need to just get on their path alone. I've in high school, I remember that so vividly. Like, nobody understands. Nobody knows what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I'm not going to reach out to no one. Like, and then you're very guarded with everybody. You're not open to anything.
Yep.
But then as you get older, like, you shoot the shit with some guys, and then now you understand, like, the landscape is much deeper than what you thought.
Yeah. And that's all you need is just that one moment of connection, that one story or thing that you can kind of hold on to. And I'll share briefly. I was just on a call before this podcast, and it's actually the title of this book right here, Men's Work. The author, he talked about his own story of he was kind of struggling with like depression and stuff. And he was talking to a buddy who, prior to their conversation, was going to commit suicide. And as they shared, they had like a deep conversation. They're able to understand, hey, we're both suffering. We're not alone in this. And in the call today, he shared that the guy works with him now.
Wow.
Like they're good buddies, but now they work together. And they're on this mission to help men as well.
Just they
support
opened
men.
up, though.
They opened up, yeah.
Literally.
Just, hey, I'm struggling. I'm going through this thing. This is what I thought about doing. And the other guy's like, yeah, I was kind of in the same situation, or I'm kind of going through the same thing. And as soon as you hear that, you're like, wow, I didn't know that about you. Right? And you probably see that a lot on social media too. There's like a video of, there's like two guys, they're at a soccer game, and there's one guy that looks miserable. He's always sitting down, and his buddy is like always happy, cheering. And then it goes throughout, and the other friend that was happy cheering is no longer in the picture. And I just got goosebumps.
I just got goosebumps right now. Oh my God.
So you can see, like, as men, we're suffering so much in silence. We might look like on the surface, everything's good. We're happy. We might have a family, all that stuff. But deep down inside, we're struggling. We're suffering. And maybe it could be like that self-awareness. Maybe we don't know what is that's going on inside. We don't have the words. But just admitting, okay, yeah, like something's going on that I need support. And again, it could be reaching out to a therapist, a coach, a men's group. There's so many resources out there. And they're starting to be more for men specifically that you can get that support.
Well, I think it's a great talking point too, because I'm looking at the data from when we sent out the form to a bunch of our men in our community. Bottled up emotions, 73% of guys said they were struggling with it. 73%. That's 7 out of 10 men.
Yep.
So again, it's just another testament to say, like, yo, this is like this. Everybody's going through it. So I think again that just opens up at least a little bit of social proof for the guys to say, okay, if I probably reach out to somebody, they'll probably say the same thing back, and I won't feel that judgment or that criticism,
Exactly.
right?
And there's a lot about like men feeling alone, especially as we get older. We lack friendships. People get married, they move out, maybe they move to another place, so those friendships kind of dwindle. So we might have like maybe one or two, depending, and we need more men to have those male bonds and everything, to have a brotherhood, an alliance, all these different elements where you can connect and share, hey, today is a bad day, or hey, I'm having struggle with my partner, or my job sucks or something. Just having an outlet where you can actually express those things.
And that's again finding within your community, where you can have that outlet,
or online, because now online, like, you
Yeah.
can find so much online.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, put a pin in that because I want to wrap up with community for sure. What I actually want to touch on now, because again, I'm a holistic wellness nut. Like nutrition, fitness, sleep, all those other great things. I think there's so much power in that. So I want to know where your philosophy lies around this, because I'm a big believer in the foundational things move the needle the most.
Absolutely.
So for somebody who thinks let's say they think they're depressed, they think they have low energy, they think they lack that confidence and assertiveness. What are your habits looking like throughout the day? Are you just watching TV? Are you sleeping in? Are you sitting down? Are you drinking alcohol? Imagine if you just removed that, how much better you would feel. Like, it's so foundational and simple, yet we don't think it packs a punch. So now let's say you remove all those vices or those things that are bringing you down, and you start putting in foundational, simplistic wellness things. Start getting more sleep. Move your body at the gym or just walk. Start eating healthier. Remove the bad foods. Like, do these really simple foundational things, and how much better will your body feel? And how much better will your mental health feel as a result of all these simple foundational things? What's your take on that?
I totally agree. And that's something I ask my clients. Like, trying to ask those like lifestyle questions, like, yeah, how much sleep are you getting? What kind of job do you have? Are you working shift work? Are you working late hours? What's your stress management like? Do you go to the gym? Do you do yoga, meditation, whatever it might be? Are you implementing those things into your day to day? And even nutrition, because I read a lot about that stuff too, and that's an area that I'm interested in, is what does the food that you're consuming look like? Because our gut is the second brain. So whatever you feed there, you're going to feel in your body too. So if you go having McDonald's, fast food, you're going to, it might feel good in the moment, but you feel like shit afterwards. And you're probably getting empty calories where you still get hungry and you're going to consume even more. But if you eat in like a nutritious meal, you're going to have that energy that you can do so much more, especially if you have a family. If you have like a little kid, you want to be able to have energy to run around, to play. But if you just have like a big meal, you're just going to be on the couch, kind of passed out. So I think, yeah, lifestyle is definitely a key component, especially sleep too. If you're not getting adequate sleep, everything else kind of dwindles. Your stress is going to be amplified. Your anxiety is going to be amplified. All these different things.
Your body's out of balance. Get it back into homeostasis with those foundational elements, right?
Yeah.
Is there, and again, this could be a personal opinion of yourself, especially with the clients that you have, is there a foundational element of health that you feel packs the biggest punch in terms of helping your anxiety or your mental health, negative inner self voice? Like, what do you feel would move the needle the most if somebody would just start out in their health journey?
Like dealing with specifically anxiety, like self-talk, those kind of things? Or
no, so like, let's say somebody's struggling with mental health, like across the board mental health. They want to improve it.
Yeah.
What would move the needle the most? Is it sleep? Is it nutrition? Is it fitness? Like, what do you feel would pack the biggest punch?
It's a great question. It's hard to say. It would depend on the person, what they're kind of dealing with, and what their lifestyle currently looks like. So it would have to be specific to each person. But yeah, maybe just sleep, getting good quality sleep. Especially if you have a baby and a newborn and all that stuff, it can be difficult. So your stress, relationship dynamics are going to be kind of amplified. So if you're able to prioritize sleep as the foundation, I think then everything else can follow through. You don't want to do too many things all at once, because then that's where people will fail. It's like, oh, I'm trying to work on my sleep, this, and that. But then everything kind of, you drop the ball on things. Yeah. So try to focus on sleep, get good quality sleep, get certain devices where you can maybe measure your sleep too. Like wear an Apple Watch or something like that, see if that helps. Check the temperature in the room. Like there's so many books on sleep that try to implement some of those protocols and see, does it make an effect? Does it benefit you in some regard?
100%. Well, I remember reading a study not too long ago, and I can't remember where the study was from, but they showed what happened to a person after one night of sleep deprivation.
With like red light or like light in something in the room?
No, they just kept them up.
Okay.
Like they slept. I think it was like 4 hours in like for the night, right? So you're sleep deprived, right? You should be about 7
like you're drunk.
Yeah. So then what they did was they showed them pictures before and after they sleep deprived them in terms of things that they thought would provoke stress and anxiety. And it actually found out that before or after they were sleep deprived, their limbic part of the brain, which is the one that's associated with fear and survival and anxiety, was heightened like to the max. And their prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, more rational brain, which would help you navigate those fearful images or the stressful images, was almost completely shut off. So imagine if you're walking around sleep deprived and you're thinking, I got this big mental health problem. Maybe you just need to sleep. Maybe you just need to sleep, right? So I like what you say about sleep in terms of at least prioritizing that.
And I'll share two things on that as well. Like, so I heard something similar to that, and just having like light in the room. So I think they did something like that as well, where people were sleeping and they put, I think it was a red light in the back of their knee, and even that impacted their sleep quality.
On the skin?
On the skin.
Wow.
So like, think if you have like a TV in your room. There's usually like that red light.
That little dot.
No way. That could be impacting your sleep.
It was because the skin has receptors towards light, and it just triggers.
Just triggers it, yeah. And then another one, which was fascinating, was around having a dog in the bedroom. So if you think of like when you travel, you go to a different place, maybe you don't get the same quality sleep, not like that deep sleep, because you're in an unfamiliar territory, right? You're in a new space, so your brain's like, okay, we have to be on alert in case something were to happen. But if you have a dog sleeping with you in your house, the dog's breathing helps you get deep sleep, because now you don't have to worry about like any intruders or anything like that, because the dogs will pick up on that and react.
Wow.
And I could testify this too, because I have a dog and he sometimes sleeps with us and stuff, and he can listen. He hears everything. I have good hearing. I would say I have good hearing myself, and I don't hear half the things he hears. He'll hear something and he starts freaking out. He starts barking, and then I get up and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Nothing's happening. Go back to sleep. But just having that there, like having a dog there, changes things too.
Yeah.
And I heard that on a podcast too. So.
And then again, in real life, you experience it.
Yeah.
No, I totally know what you mean. Yeah, when I'm there, like with my dog, I'm safe from ghosts. Ghosts can't get me.
There you
I'm
go. You're
telling
safe.
you.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's so true.
Because their senses are more attuned, right? So they can hear anything. They sense danger. They react to it.
Yeah.
Whereas we as humans, maybe we're not receptive to that just per se.
Yeah, and you can be in the off mode until they say like, okay, like let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. And I remember like we had a flood in our place, and it started like raining in our bathroom.
Oh shoot.
And the dog started barking. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I look, and okay, shit, he warned us. And then he just knew that something was going on, and he let us know. So we actually got to do something about it.
Unbelievable. Hey, ladies and gentlemen,
you
listen, bring your dog into your room, see how you sleep tonight. Yeah, and again,
Try it
see how
out.
that trickles into the rest of the lifestyle factors within your life.
Yep. And again, just having a pet in general is good for general mental health.
Yeah.
Petting it, going for a walk, gets you out of there.
Yeah, because think about how you feel when you pet a dog. You come up, they're smiling at you.
They're smiling, they're happy.
Like, oh, okay, I can't be mad anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, even when I was in university, I'm remembering right now, like every Wednesday they would have therapy dogs that come in, and free students just come in and like roll around with the dogs.
There you go.
It was awesome.
And your stress levels kind of go down.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. But again,
Wait
it's
for exam
carrying.
season.
Yeah, for exam season, then you're like, okay. But again, it's carrying that energy and being aware that you're going to have to carry this when you're not with the dog or when you're not doing that active work,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The dog's just like a jump off point, right? Like you can just get what you need and then, okay, what do I do afterwards?
Yeah. Okay, John, let's keep it moving into a little more of the data that came in from our men in our community.
Yep.
And we asked the question, which aspect of your life do you believe negatively affects your mental health in the biggest way? We asked them, is it work? Is it romantic relationships, friends and family, social media? Number one, what's the winner? Guess what it is?
Probably social media.
Social media. Hey,
Not surprised, yeah?
Not surprised, yeah. It's a reoccurring topic in terms of wherever we talk about in this podcast, from like fitness industry in terms of body image, social media in terms of understanding the nutritional information that you get. Like social media has been an underlying pattern in every facet of health and wellness. Where do you feel the biggest problem with social media for mental health is right now, especially for men?
I would say it's because with social media, you're also in control of what you consume. So are you following the right accounts, or are you following things that are going to make you feel bad about yourself? Right. So if I'm following all these models, whether it's male or female, and I see this guy with 6-pack abs and I don't have that, I'm going to feel like shit. Or if I see this model, she looks beautiful, all that stuff, and I don't have that in my life and I want that, I'm going to feel like shit. Right? So it all comes down to like, what are the social media accounts that you're following? Because I'm a big proponent of social media. I use it for my business, to market, for personal as well, like friends, family, all that stuff. But I'm also in control of like the content that I curate. So I'll follow the accounts that are motivating, that uplift me instead of kind of make me feel like bad. So I want to control that environment, and also be cautious of how much I'm utilizing it. So whatever device you're using, you can actually check how much time are you spending on it. Is it going up? Is it going down? I like to watch a lot of YouTube video myself, again, for content, for knowledge, to see what's going on, to be informed. But I have to also safeguard myself and put some filters and parameters around that. So I'm not going to be watching like 20 hours, maybe like 5 hours or 2 hours or something. Like, be conscious of the amount that I'm using it.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I think even me looking at the way that we even use social media, in the sense that it's like they say, it's like a casino in the way. Think about Instagram Reels or TikTok.
Yeah,
like
just
it's
keep going.
constant stimulation and
dopamine.
It's constant dopamine. Yep. And when you're doing that, I know dopamine and cortisol, they kind of play this symbiotic relationship. And cortisol is like the stress hormone, right?
Yep.
So if you're constantly rigging your dopamine system, scrolling through these reels, you're just slowly elevating the cortisol and keeping it elevated.
Yep.
And how often do you check social media? Every maybe 15 minutes? You keep coming back.
Yep.
So you're constantly keeping that cortisol elevated. So I think even like when you're saying be aware of the amount that you're consuming it, time block it. Time block it. Say, I'm only going to use it for like 2 hours a day, like 1 to 2 p.m.
Exactly.
Or 1 to 3 p.m. And then leave it.
Yeah, be intentional about it, right? Like, okay, I'm going to use it for maybe business. Okay, I'm going to post, I'm going to maybe consume, see what's there, and then I'm going to put it away. I'm not going to kind of, just pick it up, go.
It's a mindless stimulation, right?
And it's so easy, right? Like, there's no barrier. Just you open up the app, it's there.
Fast.
You have the reels, you have the stories, you have all these different things. It's like, oh, this person posts, okay, let me see what they're up to. We're so invested in other people's lives than our own. Same thing with video games, right? Like, when you get into a video game, you're so immersed. You're like, oh, I want to level up this stat, I want to do this. What about doing that in the real world? How do you level up like your sleep, your fitness, your mental health, like all these different aspects in the real world now? And use video game concepts, but apply it to yourself now.
Huge. Yeah, apply it to yourself, literally. Well, here's the other thing with video games, because I used to be a big gamer growing up too. And again, it's this level of stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're in, and it goes for like Netflix, it goes for social media, it goes for video games. It's this really big spike of stimulation. Mm-hmm. So whenever you break away from that, life feels boring. Yeah. Life feels slow. It's not, you'll never get that dopamine drive that you do from a very, I think it's called like super stimuli. Like video game is a super stimuli, reels are super stimuli. Yeah. The human mind is not designed to handle that and experience that. So whenever you break away, like imagine telling somebody they just finished like 30 rounds on COD. And you got to go, hey, now let's read a book.
That guy?
Yeah, right, you're that guy. And it's I can't even fathom going from that level of fun to something so slow, dry, and mundane. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially with Call of Duty, like especially during the pandemic, that was the go-to, right? Yeah. Like, you get online with your buddies, play a few rounds, and the thing with me in video games is I want to accomplish, like, get all the stars or the trophies or whatever. Mm-hmm. And with COD, I was trying to get all the guns gold.
Nice.
Just get them all gold and all that stuff. So you had to, hustle and grind in that game.
Yeah.
And I probably put a lot of hours into it. But then after I just quit cold turkey and focus on my business, like, okay, I'm going to apply that same energy now to my business. Do the marketing stuff, do content, do all these different things to push the needle forward and help more men out at the end of the day. But again, I'm a guy, I go through these things too, right? I would constantly wake up, COD. Stay up, going back to sleep, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, like dead tired, like, okay, I can't function, but still playing. I wasn't prioritizing those things. Again, it was a lockdown, so there's not much to do. So you just kind of wake up and do the same kind of mundane routine over and over again. But then when you kind of break free from that cycle, you try to see, okay, what is it that I can do to level myself up now and push the needle forward there?
See, I love that you said bring all the energy you're putting into video games or social media, like that fake world, and apply it to your own life.
Yeah.
And for me, that almost sounds like it's a sense of purpose for you.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on what a sense of purpose can do for someone's mental health, especially guys?
Yeah. I think if you don't have a sense of purpose or like a North Star or something that's going to push you forward, it's hard. It's going to be easy to fall into the everyday, to just like wake up, go to work, do the same kind of routine over and over again. But if you have like goals, again, going back to the journaling, if you set that vision, that plan forward, it's going to spark that joy inside of you. When I had this idea of creating Uplift, I was like, okay, I want to be like the leader in men's mental health. Okay, what does that look like? That's a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time and dedication. Okay, so what can I do to bring that about? Doing podcasts, being on this podcast, right? Reaching more men, doing different things that's going to help out in the end to reach that goal, right? I actually had a little whiteboard in my house where I put like all these goals. Like I want to see a certain amount of clients. I want to make a certain amount of income, make a lot of connections. And I was actually looking at that last year and I was just like, damn, I actually achieved these goals.
Wow.
I was just like, wow. But it was always behind my computer screen. It was always there.
It was in front of you.
It was in front of me.
Constantly.
So it's kind of like in the subconscious, motivating me to kind of do those things.
Yes.
Especially with the financial goals. Like, okay, I have this financial goal. I have to do certain things to get there. So tracking numbers, certain metrics, doing certain things to get there. To have this office space now, to be doing all these things that I'm doing.
Yeah. It's a whole journey of purpose. Like it's what's fueling you.
Yeah.
I can resonate with that so deeply because honestly, before Revive, I felt in my life like it lacked lots of direction. Mm-hmm. It lacked anything actually worth something. Like I would just go to school, play some video games, hang out with my friend, drink beer. Like it wasn't fulfilling. But when I actually started Revive, we actually started as a clothing company, man, like selling activewear. Nice. Again, still like I was very fueled in terms of being motivated, and it was giving me some energy and vitality. But it still wasn't fulfilling. Like it still was missing a little something. Yeah. But now fast forward to where we are today, like even just being on this podcast now, acting as an advocate in the wellness space, like for me, that's so purposeful. And it energizes me so much. And people always ask me like, how are you so high vibe? And honestly, like it's just like I'm fueled by purpose. Yeah. And it's monumental to look back to see like where I was before and where I was now. And I'm not saying everybody needs to go ahead and start a business. Like you don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that.
But I think like even just trying some things out in terms of doing something greater than you, a little bit more important. I don't want to say more important, but it's like a bigger cause than just the day to day. Yeah. And it can move the needle.
Yeah. Even like becoming a parent, right? Now you have this little being that you have to kind of support, develop, nurture, all these different things that could be purpose in and of itself. That I want to give my kid the best life possible. right? To be able to play. Maybe I didn't have that growing up. So now having a kid, okay, I can play, be an inner kid myself, right? Have that fun and be able to move forward in that regard.
Yeah. And that's another great point too. Like your purpose doesn't need to be this grand thing, right? It can be
something small.
But like for that person that you're impacting, it could like change their life.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the thing that I noticed too is a lot of men don't have that mentorship guidance that's going to motivate them to do that stuff. And you see like certain social media influencers kind of speak to men in that regard. They're like, oh, the fancy car, the girls, like all these kind of things. And guys are like, again, back to the dopamine, like, oh, I want that. But again, they're not looking deep down inside. Like, okay, what truly fulfills me? What brings me happiness, joy? And that's why, again, a lot of men are struggling with like depression and anxiety and all these different mental health challenges. Because again, they're lacking that focus, that support system, the purpose, like all these different elements. But if you sit down, again, map out your life, okay, what's the area that's maybe lacking for now? Just focus on one area. Maybe it's your health. Get your health in a good place, then work on your finances, then work on these other areas. And then in a year from now, you can be like, wow, this is where I was at, and this is where I'm at now. And we have data points. Again, you have the scale, you have measurements, you have finances, you have all these different things that you can actually measure. So, okay, if I have X amount of money in my bank account, maybe I want this amount. Okay, how can I do that? And you just got to take action on that and just kind of create a plan, reach out. There's so much information online that you can get that support. And you guys have a lot of great programs too that I was kind of going through myself. And it's like, yeah, there's good content here that if you apply it, you're going to move the needle forward. And it just takes doing one thing, getting 1% better each day. That's going to have a ripple effect throughout your life.
Yeah, and it snowballs.
Yeah.
You know, one actual tidbit here that I want to do before we get into this community aspect is when you're looking for this grand purpose, but you don't need to. I think what you just said there in terms of identifying which area of your life to start and then slowly build on that, like that could be your purpose.
Yeah.
Like your own personal development journey, your spiritual journey, your soul growth journey, however you want to frame it, like that can light you up so well. Like imagine becoming the best version of yourself. Like imagine that like 12 months from now.
Yeah.
That will energize you very much.
And how that's going to impact the people around you, like your family, your partners, your relationships, your friends, your community even. Right? If you work on yourself, people see that. They're like, oh shit, he's doing something different. He has this glow to him. What is it? Kind of like going back to your energy, right? People say like you have this energy. They want to be around that. It's contagious.
Yeah.
If you're around someone that's kind of like down in the dumps, not really talking, you're gonna feel that too. You're gonna pick up on that. Yeah. Vibration is key in these regards too.
Huge, yeah. It's almost spiritual in a sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, let's do the or let's wrap up with support group because I know this is one of the biggest things for men, right? They believe they have to suffer alone in silence.
Yep.
It's a huge thing, and I'm like even my personal journey. I'm thinking about it now from where I was lacking, like again before Revive. I thought like I only knew what I knew, like this little bubble, like there's nothing else in the world out there. But when I started going out, meeting new people, and again attracting people who held a certain vibration that were where I wanted to be, that had the qualities I wanted to embody.
Absolutely.
That's when I really felt more alive, more full of vitality, and again more supported. So, like, how does somebody even begin to get out of this notion that I am alone? I don't know what to do. Like I just feel like a lost soul here.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost would be like taking stock of like, okay, where am I at? Who's in my circle, like in my corner? If we use like that boxing analogy, right? If you're going out, doing all these things in life and getting knocked down, all that stuff, who's there to support you and lift you up essentially? So start with your family. Like, do you have like siblings, parents? Are they supportive or are they kind of like bringing you down? Maybe you have to set boundaries in some regards. So you're motivated to do your purpose, your mission, those kind of things. But if you think of like sports, the army, there's that sense of brotherhood. And I think it was Jocko Willink who talks about in the Navy, you have to be like close with this guy, right? You have to have that kind of brotherhood because if you're out on the battlefield, they have to have your back. If they don't, you're screwed, right? So there's an element of trust there. Can I trust this person? Can I be vulnerable? Again, can I share with this person? Is this someone that I would want at my wedding or be my best man or something to that nature? If the answer is yes, then great, you have that good person. But if the answer is no, then how can you find that? And something, this has been my journey too, like trying to find a brotherhood, a group. And I've joined my own men's group, being part of an alliance. And we have like a WhatsApp group where we check in, we're talking to each other. People are mentioning like their struggles. We have the bigger group where we have different calls on different topics. Last week we talked about attachment. So as a therapist, it's kind of good in that sense too. So I
Yeah.
get to see like, okay, what are men going through, but I also apply it to my own personal life too. So I think, yeah, having a support system, a mentor is key too. So whether you get a therapist or a coach, that's second, but trying to find people that kind of are aligned with you, that are into personal development, into fitness, health and wellness, those kind of things, that's going to motivate you. Because they say like your network is your net worth too, right? So if you're around people that are not making enough money, you want to be around people that can elevate you in that financial regard. And same thing with your friendships. If your friendships are playing Call of Duty, eating certain foods, you're going to succumb to those pressures too. But if your friends are like networking, working on their business, or enhancing their career by doing trainings and courses, then they're improving themselves in that regard too. So again, you don't have to go in the entrepreneurship route, but just finding like-minded men who are working on themselves at the end of the day.
Working on themselves.
Working on
Whatever
themselves,
that looks like for them.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
John, I love it, man. And the insights that you've given today, I know is going to make a powerful impact for all our listeners. And I'm excited for our program coming out too in the Revive Academy.
Excited as well.
Now, before we wrap up, I just want to give you the stage to let listeners know where they can connect with you, what you do with men, and how they can get in touch.
Yeah. So you can find me at uplifttherapyformen.com or on social media. Again, use it sparingly, like not too much, but there's content on there. And yeah, you can reach out via my website, book a 15-minute conversation if you want to like learn more about therapy, what I do, how I can support you and what you're going through. If I'm the right fit, happy to work with you. If not, I do have a team of associates that can support you, or I can provide you referrals to my community as well. Again, I think as a therapist, business owner, it's more about the client than it is the profit. Profit is great, but I want to make sure that the client gets what they want at the end of the day. And if it's me, great, happy to work with you. If not, we have team members or I have referrals to my community as well.
Amazing, John. Thank you so much. We're going to link everything you need to connect with John in the show notes below. Check him out. He's got some great content. And again, he's building a nice brotherhood that gives that nice, supportive, open environment. Please check him out. He's fantastic. And again, John, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.